yogis. So we've got another set of 5 chakra tips for the different chakras. This week, last week was heart chakra. This week is throat chakra, which is known as Vishuddha, the 5th chakra. And they all build on each other, right? We talk about how you work your way up the body, both physically and energetically. And whereas last week we were talking about finding the things that we love and care about, it's not enough just to know and to love it inside. You've got to get it out and express it. So while the physical part of the body last week was the heart, which means the chest and the back, a lot of back bends, and also arm work and hands, as you move up into Vishuddha and it's the throat, it also includes the shoulders and the jaw region, because it's, and the ears, right? Because now we're talking about expression. And the feeling is both listening and expressing what we love. I also have been talking about how we get buildups in, that the imbalances are when there's too much of one kind of energy and it needs to kind of push through to the next chakra. So I always find it's kind of, well, what could be wrong with loving too much, right? Love seems like such a nice one. How does that build up? How does that become a problematic chakra? And it's not that love is. There isn't too much love. You can't love too much. Love is unconditional if it's unconditional in the universe. But we can also love in a manner that's more attached, right? Where if we lose then the object of our love, we're crumbled, we're crushed. And whether that's, and that can be grief, and that can be losing somebody we love and they die, right? Or they're sent away, something happens so we never see them again. It can be experienced as grief. It can be your kids going off to college, right? Becoming an empty nester. It's about to happen to me. Not quite, but close. I'm getting on that edge. And that's a grief, the losing of one's kids. All different levels in which when we put all of our attachment, we put all our love and everything we have into somebody or something, the nature of the world is impermanence, right? You can't have and hold on to anyone or anything is the real just reality of life on this plane, on this planet, is that everything changes. So we're always at some point, somehow, inevitably, going to experience a loss of the people, the things that we love. And that can set up the grief, right? What do we do with it? What do we do when we're feeling bereft? Grief is, I always need to make this really clear, grief is natural and important. And we've lost a lot of the social rituals and care that community put into grieving process. And so it's nothing to be ashamed of or rush through or try to ignore. We need to experience our grief. But as I said, everything changes and everything needs to keep going and moving. So often we need ways of getting past our grief too, getting past the loss, the emptiness, the attachment, when it's too much for us to bear, right? What do we do next? Where do we take our energy in that love? It still needs to go somewhere. We're still full of love, right? Even if we have kids in college. And the chakra lesson is to move it into a greater sense of expression. Instead of just those individuals, this person is all I can do. I can only love this person. If they're gone, I'm dead. We need to universalize it. And I think, and some people talk about the second chakra being creativity, and there is a creative aspect, because certainly, so like procreation happens in second chakra. it's a very physical type of creation, I think, in the second chakra. In the fifth chakra, it's more what I think is classic creativity. It's expressing like through art, through music, through sculpture, through film, through acting, through all the arts, right? Singing's a really great one for it, when I said music, but writing, it's another really good one. Any of that kind of expression can get those feelings that we had, the grief, we can express it through art, right? That's what it's there for, is getting that universal message out. And many of us don't do it enough. Even if we identify as artists, we get, life takes us away from it. Our culture doesn't value it a lot. I talked about the third chakra being the one where our culture says we should be achieving and working and being at the office all day long. And that's what we value in our culture. And we don't put a lot of emphasis on how important the creative process is. That all of us need to do it. It's not just if you're an artist, not just if you're a singer. You need to sing anyway. You need to write poetry anyway. Act because you love it, because it's fun. Dance. Play an instrument even if you do it badly. Draw and write and paint and all these things that we love to do as children. Whichever ones you kind of tickle your fancy, do them, right? There's broader things too. I mean, those are sort of the classic arts, but the throat chakra can be balanced through your creative work in a garden, right? Through design, through expressing something that's important to you. Really, it's getting what you love. That's the other way of looking at this. It's getting what you love, what's in your heart, and bringing it out into the world. So it even can be things like nursing, caring for children, or caring, broadly, as like a teacher or a guardian, caring for animals, caring, when I said nursing, it can be teaching. These are ways of, if you love these things, if this is something you're passionate about, expressing it is a way of using your throat chakra. It's a two-way street. I talked about it's the jaw and our ears. And this can't be emphasized enough too, because often we lose, I kept saying expression, I'm guilty of it too. It's a lot about expression and saying what you need to say, but it actually is just as much about listening to others, which is what makes it a two-way thing, and what makes caring, being a caretaker, a healer, being a teacher, being an artist, listening back to what your audience or your patients, your students are saying back is what feeds you as well. Learning how to sit in a real open listening place is very healing to the throat chakra, and we don't tend to think about that or do that in our excitement to get our own stuff out. So even just spending time listening to music, listening to the beauty of, I say that I was hearing a beautiful bird song, right? Listening to the sounds of nature is very healing to the throat chakra. That's 2. I've gone to 2 things now. It's supposed to be 5, and I get in this kind of ramble of things that are good for the throat chakra, but it's like the listening and talking, saying what's true to you. I said that our culture doesn't value this chakra, and I mean that it doesn't value this kind of creative, deep level of expression, because we actually have a lot of imbalance in this, and part of our imbalance manifests this way, right? This is my pose on my phone, my computer, where I've actually blocked off, my shoulders are up by my ears, my upper back's hunched over, and my throat's down, my head's down, and I've blocked off this whole region. So we end up with our tight shoulders and tight necks. I said this is the region of the body we're supposed to free up. So communicate, and this happens ironically while we're supposedly communicating on our phones, right, or our computers. We might be talking to people all over the world. But I don't think that emojis, to be honest, thumbs up signs, really gets to this creative and deep communication drive we need within us. Opening up the chest, freeing out this region of the body, and speaking heart to heart is the kind of communication that will balance and free this area. Speaking what you really value, what's true to you. Listening to what people are really saying. So often we project what we think people are saying onto them and don't listen to what, beyond even like trying to listen to not their hurtful words, but where that hurt's coming from, right? A deep listening can has a certain level of forgiveness even in it, right? That someone might be saying something that hurts our feelings, but if you really listen to what they're saying, you might get where it's coming from and understand their own pain and realize that that's what's speaking. It's not, that hearing the pain that brought that difficulty into their words to you helps you sympathize, if we can, to what they're really saying, right? That's the kind of connection that this throat chakra brings as well. So those are the activities you can do. Something literal like the arts. Get yourself writing more. Sing in the shower, even if you can't sing in front of anyone else. Sing in front of other people too. It doesn't matter, right? Creativity should be done even if we're not geniuses. Doesn't take artists to do this stuff. We all should do it. Communicating is another one, right? Just talking to people and listening. That's my second one. Now, a third one that's interesting is because we've been going through the elements with the different chakras too. And first one was earth, second one was water, belly is fire, last week was air. And there's a fifth element that is more subtle. They grow increasingly subtle. They start off very gross, physically gross, like earth's the grossest, and then it grows finer up to water. Plasma of fire is finer still, air finer still. But when we get to throat, it grows finer into the space element. Also traditionally was called like the ether element. The idea of space is actually the space between air molecules. It's where there is nothing else, there is space, or ether. It's very, it's a getting to a deeper and more mystic, actually, element, space. So you can balance it though by going and look at the night sky. Wow. How does that help us get out of that place of grieving into the mystery of looking at the stars at night, or looking at the space between the stars and contemplating space? Great way to balance this chakra as well. Giving space between your words, and that space allows you to listen to others and the birds or whatever else we're listening to, the sound of water, right? The beautiful sounds of nature, but then and the things people say, listening through space. Important. So the third thing, as we move into a fourth thing we can use to balance, I talk about just colors you can wear in metals and stones. So at the throat chakra, it's symbolized by a little gray egg shape is the symbol, and that color gray is useful. Also the color blue, because in the rainbow chakra, it starts red, orange, yellow, green. Throat, it's blue. So blue's a beautiful color to blue or gray, and I like then in gemstones things like lapis lazuli, turquoise, peridot can be blue, sapphires certainly blue, and like blue topaz. Anything that's blue. It's a beautiful magic kind of color. It's all kinds of interesting. You should look up like the history of the color blue, because it's different than other colors, and it's got a kind of magic to it, like the color of bird wings and ocean and sky, right? It's unusual in nature to have blue. And it's a great color to wear to help balance this chakra and your creativity, get things going. That was the fourth thing to balance this chakra. And the fifth one, I always like to give you anyone can do yoga pose. And I thought I would do in a little inversion. We haven't done any of those here, but this is one that's really accessible to everybody. And it does open up your throat and your neck. I'm doing it here. I often like to have a prettier background. And I apologize that it's not so pretty big. I wanted to have a wall available for the pose. But you could also do this on a tree. I just didn't have a good tree near me right now. But if you have a nice flat tree with a nice flat ground next to it, you could do this up against a tree or a big rock. A rock that's really high. Again, you need sort of flat ground next to it. So you can do it in nature. I couldn't today. It is easier to do it on ground. It's also nice to have, I put a little blanket here, and putting a little blanket or a pillow or something just enough to raise your hips a little bit is super nice. It's called Vipariti Karani, legs up against a wall pose. And I have a trick for getting up the wall because it's not always easy to get your legs up the wall. So my suggestion to get up there is to sit sideways against the wall first. See, my knees are up against the wall and my body's up against the wall. And then I lie down and I'm still sideways initially. Then I lift my feet up and I'm still sideways. But then I pivot myself and I'm right up against the wall. If I were to come at it directly, you end up having this, what I tell people, it's like a long butt walk, trying to get yourself closer to the wall. And it's just a little awkward. I think it's easier to come up sideways, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you get your hips as close to the walls, as you can. It could be, still an inch or so apart if you need to. But your hands can be on your belly or at your sides. I actually kind of like at your sides. It helps drop the shoulders back. It frees up the chest, which is what we're doing. You're freeing up the throat, the shoulders, letting them all drop back. Having a nice, mild inversion with your feet up against the wall. Has so many benefits. It benefits the heart a lot too. We talked about how I think there's a strong connection between the heart chakra and this one, because it is about freeing up the ability to love, broader, bigger than just that one person you're attached to. A universal love. You free up that whole region with this as well. Let yourself take slow breaths. It's a great pose. I have students I've had for a long time. You can come down by just bringing your legs down, coming up again. But who's, I send people off to do this pose 20 minutes a night, or 10 minutes at least, a couple minutes, a little bit of time every night. Have your legs up against the wall. Great way to end a day. It takes all the stress off you. It's like the taking the weight off the shoulders feeling. And you could meditate that way. You could do a little bit of meditating and just hang out there for your 10 minutes or so. But you could also read a book or something while you're there, if you don't mind. All right, if you get bored. I suggest it though. It does, it feeds the heart. The heart tends to have to work during the regular day uphill, bringing gravity. Gravity's kind of working uphill, trying to bring the blood up from your feet to the rest of your body. And so that nice inversion, the flow of your blood works with gravity and goes downhill to your heart, and the heart doesn't work as hard. So it actually really helps. It's great for people with a little bit of a heart condition, or not a serious one. I'm not a doctor medicating those kind of things. But if your blood pressure's a little bit high, a little bit low, outline, not extreme, it's a great one for the heart. And it's a great one to open up throat chakra, Vishuddha. So we'll be doing throat chakra all week. It's tonight at my deck at 6 o'clock. Tuesdays are always 6 o'clock. There is a yin class, and I now have sound healing bowls, crystal healed singing bowls that I'll be incorporating in my yin classes on Thursday nights, which is 6:30, and on Saturday at 10 a.m. So I do